What's going on, everyone? I just want to talk about some year two breakout wide receivers, guys that are on the cusp of absolute greatness at the wide receiver position. As we all know, year two wide receivers can be a cheat code for fantasy football, so you want to go out and draft these guys, and that's exactly what's happening on Underdog Fantasy, as a lot of these guys like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, are being drafted extremely high over on Underdog Fantasy. Either way, though, before we get into it, if you guys could, go down, drop a like. I'm answering every single comment, so if you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and subscribe to the channel. It is the #1 way to support me. It's completely free. It would mean the absolute world to me, guys. Either way, let's get it started with our first player, and that is Garrett Wilson.
Catch, puts on a move, and another one, and Wilson is very close to a first down.
So the first player I want to talk about, again, is Garrett Wilson. And if you were to take a guess as to where Garrett Wilson was going in terms of ADP right now over on Underdog Fantasy, where do you think it would be? Let me know down below. I'll give you guys a second to write it down. Right now, he's coming off the board as the wide receiver 8 and an ADP of 12. That means he's coming off the board right now at the 1-2 turn. And me personally, I think that's totally justified. I mean, this is somebody who is a phenomenal wide receiver, got drafted 10th overall to the Jets just last season, and came out and dominated right away. This is somebody who had over 1,100 yards with a combination of Mike White, Zach Wilson, and washed Joe Flacco at quarterback. This is somebody who is able to garner over 140 targets. And for me personally, I believe that targets are an earned metric. So if you are going out your rookie season and having over 140 targets, I think that is a phenomenal sign for things to come for Garrett Wilson. The amount of targets that Garrett Wilson was able to have ranked him second all time in terms of rookie target leaders, only behind Anquan Boldin, ahead of guys like Jalen Waddle and Amari Cooper. So Garrett Wilson was an absolute target hog as a rookie, and I think that should only continue to increase. Not only that, you have the bad man himself, Aaron Rodgers, a potential top 5 quarterback of all time, coming into this offense and potentially leading them to playoffs and to greatness. I mean, Aaron Rodgers coming off an MVP 2 of the last 3 seasons. This is somebody who, yes, took a step back this last season without Devontae Adams, but now you have Garrett Wilson, you have your boy in Allen Lazard. This is a team that is gearing up to make the playoffs with a phenomenal defense, and I think Garrett Wilson is going to be the centerpiece of Aaron Rodgers' attention this upcoming season. We should see Garrett Wilson's efficiency go up, and we could potentially see his targets go up as well. We could see Garrett Wilson potentially reaching somewhere like 155 targets, maybe around 100 receptions and 1,300 yards at the position, which would absolutely justify his current draft capital as the wide receiver 8 over on Underdog Fantasy. But I would like to go over a little bit of the question marks with Garrett Wilson. I mean, again, for one, he is a year 2 wide receiver, somebody just really stepping into his own at the NFL level. So it is a little concerning that he's going off the board almost as a round 1 pick on average in these underdog drafts. I think, yes, again, he is a great player, but I think there is some concern to be had there. There is also concern that Aaron Rodgers may be on the decline in his career. I mean, we did see him have one of his worst seasons to date of all time. And while I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is going to be washed, it could be the direction we see him trending in. But I think a good counterpoint to that is just how bad the quarterbacks were last season for the Jets. I mean, this is a team that only had one quarterback have more touchdowns than interceptions last season, and that was Joe Flacco with 5 touchdowns to 3. I mean, it was just an awful season. Even if Aaron Rodgers is bad, it's really hard for him to be this bad. Even at his age, I think Aaron Rodgers is still a great quarterback. So, yeah, I do like Garrett Wilson. I'm not drafting him much at his ADP. I would generally prefer taking running backs there, guys like Nick Chubb and guys like Saquon Barkley, rather than Garrett Wilson at the 1-2 turn. But I totally understand the valuation of Garrett Wilson right now. Either way, let me move on to my second wide receiver I'd like to talk about, and that is Chris Olave.
We're down at 9. Dalton heaves this one downfield. It is caught and taken in by Olave for a Saints touchdown.
And Chris Olave is the year 2 wide receiver that I am absolutely all over this season. I mean, first of all, we're talking about a quarterback change from Andy Dalton, a bottom 10, bottom 5 quarterback in the entire NFL last season, somebody who had 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions last season, to now Derek Carr, somebody who's been able to consistently sling over 20 touchdowns, and somebody who has been known to hyper target their wide receiver 1. I think this is great for Chris Olave. First of all, I just want to go over just how much Derek Carr has hyper targeted his wide receiver 1. I mean, we saw just last season Devontae Adams have 170 targets for the first time in his career. An absolutely dominant performance from both Davante Adams and Derek Carr whenever he was thrown into him. But not only that, we've seen a Hunter Renfrow be a top 10 fantasy wide receiver option under Derek Carr's wing. And Hunter Renfrow, while a good wide receiver, he is not the caliber of wide receiver that Chris Olave is. We've also seen Darren Waller be hyper-targeted, getting 145 targets and 117 targets in 2019 and 2020, finishing with over 1,100 yards in both of those seasons. So we know for a fact that Derek Carr is going to hyper-target his number one wide receiver. And Chris Olave most likely is going to be that number one wide receiver. I know a lot of people are holding out hope for Michael Thomas. I mean, this is somebody who's still being drafted around the 90s in ADP over on Underdog Fantasy. But at the same time, we have not seen Michael Thomas play more than a handful of games in 3 seasons now. Not only that, I'd like to talk for a second about just how efficient Chris Olave has been in the advanced metrics of the fantasy football community. I mean, first of all, he ranked 8th in terms of yards per out run last season, ahead of guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra St. Brown with 2.73 yards per out run. Again, this ranked him 8th in all of fantasy football. 8th as a rookie with Andy Dalton at quarterback. Not only that, he was dominant from an air yards perspective. I mean, this is somebody who controlled 27% of his team's target share, which is already a very indicative metric that he is going to be getting a lot of targets this next season. But not only that, he controlled 42% of his team's total air yards. 42% of the team's passing went through Chris Olave. That is ahead of guys, again, like DeAndre Hopkins, like Davante Adams, like A.J. Brown, and ranks him second in the entire league behind only DJ Moore. And DJ Moore was the only weapon the Panthers had last season, so it makes a lot of sense. But DJ Moore wasn't a rookie. Chris Olave was. Chris Olave's draft capital also tells us that he's going to be an insane player, with the Saints trading up a boatload to go up and get him and pick him 12th in last year's draft. I think Chris Olave is a phenomenal player and somebody I love both from a dynasty perspective and a redraft perspective. Yes, I understand he is going a little bit higher over Underdog Fantasy right now with an ADP of 19. I totally understand if that's a little rich for some people's taste, but at the same time, Chris Olave is on the verge of a true breakout season, a true 1,300 yard type of season. If that's the case and you're getting him at the 2-3 turn, I am absolutely fine swinging for the fences on Chris Olave. Somebody I love as a talent, somebody I love as a person, somebody who I think is going to do great things at the NFL level. Either way, let me move on to my last player, and that is Drake London.
Second down and 8. Ritter hangs in the pocket. Now throws. London goes up the ladder and makes the catch.
And I feel like Drake London is the last of these 3 great wide receivers of these year 2 breakouts. Yes, you could make a case for Christian Watson. I'll get to him in another video. Be sure to stay tuned for that. But I feel like talent-wise, Drake London was one of the most talented rookie wide receivers and polished rookie wide receivers that I have seen come out over the last couple seasons. I mean, we're talking about a guy who right now controlled 30% of his team's target share in his rookie season, which again, as I said for Chris Olave, is a very indicative metric of success. He finished 4th in terms of total team target share, only behind Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, and Davante Adams. Not bad company to be in, if you ask me. But there are a lot of question marks with Drake London that I am a little bit concerned to go and buy into him. I mean, first of all, we don't know if Desmond Ridder is going to be a good quarterback. We don't even know if Desmond Ridder is going to be an okay quarterback. I mean, he showed decent quarterback play last season, finishing with 2 touchdowns in 4 games. It really wasn't great, but I think he looked better than his stats indicated. But even still, I mean, we have no idea if Desmond Ridder is going to be a decent quarterback. Not only that, there are more mouths to feed now. We have Kyle Pitts returning back from injury. Obviously a great player in his own right. One of only 2 tight ends to break 1,000 yards in his rookie season. We also have Bijan Robinson coming into this offense. Somebody who's going to be a workhorse back right away from day one and probably will be pretty heavily utilized in the passing game as well. So yes, there are some concerns with Drake London. There is some reason to be worried. But if you are looking for a sheer talent play, Drake London is your guy. I mean, this is somebody who, go watch his film. He is so fun to watch. The Falcons clearly want to bolster their offense, and if Desmond Ridder is able to take a step up, I totally understand drafting Drake London. Now, me personally, I'm not really drafting too much Drake London. I think the talent is absolutely there. I think he's a phenomenal player. But at the same time, I'm worried that this team is going to want to run the ball down your throat as we saw last season. I mean, we just saw Tyler Algier break the Falcons' rookie rushing record. That was a lot of ours. And we saw that happen because the Falcons have a phenomenal offensive line. and they want to run the ball down your throat. I mean, this is a team that was second in total rush rate in the entire NFL, only behind the Chicago Bears, and we know how much the Chicago Bears want to run the football. This is a team that wants to run the ball down your throat and win via the run. I mean, that's how Arthur Smith has always done it. He saw what happened with Derrick Henry and how much a good running game can help out everything else in your offense. That's what he wants to build. This is a team with the 7th best offensive line, and I think they are going to want to focus on that strength rather than airing the ball downfield. Well, I do think Drake London is a great player. I think the amount of targets he's going to get might disappoint some people. He did finish with 117 total targets last season, which is a lot, but I don't really see that going too much further up, considering he already controlled 30% of the team's target share. I mean, realistically, there is not much room for him to go up from there. If he goes from 30% to about 32%, and they throw the ball a little bit more, we could see Drake London get somewhere in the 140 targets, but that is combining a lot of things that need to go right for Drake London, and also factoring in that Kyle Pitts is coming back. I'm not drafting much Drake London, but I see the talent. I mean, this guy is just 21 years old, and in Dynasty, I think he is a must-buy for the long term. If they can figure out their quarterback situation, he is going to be a phenomenal player. Mark my words, he is going to be a great wide receiver at the NFL level. I don't think that's a hot take or anything. I just really like Drake London. Either way, that's going to be it from me. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, go smash that like button. I'm answering every comment down below. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know and subscribe to the channel. It is the #1 way to support me. It's completely free. Would mean the absolute world to me, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a good day, a good night, and a good life.